Welcome to the Fraction Report. I'm your host, George Fraction, bringing you the good news you can use for Friday, July 29th, 2022. And today's episode is going to be entitled Presidents versus Dictators. And I say this because of everything that's going on in the world right now and Ukraine and everything like that, with people not knowing exactly what's going on. If you go throughout history and you get to learning things and getting an understanding about how geopolitics go on, you'll get to seeing things on a kind of equal plane. I say all that to say this: when you understand history, you're able to see through the propaganda. Now, what I'm going to be doing this evening is quoting from an interview by Noam Chomsky. And Noam Chomsky is an American linguist, a philosopher, a cognitive scientist, a historical essayist, a social critic, and a political activist. He is European, just, for those that tend to believe that you can't hear it from the brother man, you got to hear it from the other man. So I'm telling you where this source comes from. I'm telling you where this information is coming from. So with that being said, let me give this disclaimer. In no way are my statements meant to radicalize any group of individuals. I'm here recounting facts stated by a highly decorated and respected citizen of the United States of America and a product of its education system. Now, with that being said, let me begin by saying that Noam Chomsky did an interview to where he posed the question: if the Nuremberg principles were applied to every post-World War II president, they would be indictable. And the Nuremberg principles are guidelines for determining what constitutes a war crime. Now, the Nuremberg Trials, they were a court proceeding where members from all around the world basically put Nazi party members on trial after World War II. And they came up with a set of criteria that stipulate what is a war crime. And Noam Chomsky, in this interview, stated that if these principles were put forth toward American presidents since World War II. Now, of course, past then, there were all type of atrocities as well, but he's saying since the inception of these rules, when these rules were put into play, if you were to use these rules with these American presidents, they would be indictable. And I'm bringing this to you because I'm talking about propaganda. I'm not here to minimize anything that any other leader around the world did or they proclaim he did or did not do. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to give you a example of how propaganda will have you out here with a false sense of patriotism and feeling like everybody else around the world is so bad and what they do is this and that and that and this and we're so civilized and blah, 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 blah. That's not the case, because there have been a numerous of atrocities perpetrated by this country. And again, like I say, this is not a anti-America rant. These are statements and factual accounts that were stated by a known literary. You understand what I'm saying? So these are not just my words. So please don't think that I'm coming with any form of anti-anything. I'm anti-propaganda is what I am. So let me not ramble and let me get off into this. Now, again, if the Nuremberg principles were applied to every post-World War II president, he states that they will be indictable. So the journalist at hand asked him to state what each individual would be indicted for. Now, we're going to start from Eisenhower. He states, and these are facts, Eisenhower overthrew the government of Iran through a military coup. A military coup, for those that don't know what a coup is when you overthrow the government. You basically take somebody that's in power. So that's to say, if somebody was to run into the White House right now and take Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out by force, by military force, and install whoever they want in there. This is what he did. Now, he also overthrew a democratic government of Guatemala through a military coup as well. These are all indictable offenses according to, you know what I'm talking about? The law we just spoke on. Now, next is Kennedy. Kennedy invaded South Vietnam, authorizing the use of chemical weapons to kill crops, and his actions in Cuba, which led to the missile crisis. Again, these are not my words. These are the words of Noam Chomsky. a known literary and highly respected European here. Now, let's go to the next president, which is Johnson. Johnson expanded the war, and he also went into Indochina, killing between 3 to 4 million. They don't actually have a count, and whatever. He invaded the Dominican Republic to avoid a democratic revolution. You dig what I'm saying? And he was the first to support the state of Israel in their occupation in its early stages, which is funded by American taxpayer dollars. So he was the first to actually back Israel in them occupying land in Palestine and so forth and so on. He was the first one to do that. Now, let's continue. When it came to Nixon, he basically said, hey, we don't even have to talk about Nixon because a lot of quote unquote people that are even in tune with him know what Nixon did, and Nixon is a villainous individual when it comes to presidents and so forth and so on. But basically Watergate and Nixon started the quote unquote war on drugs. You know, you can look him up. He didn't really go off into this too much because he felt that the individuals that were in tune with the interview that was going on already knew about Nixon. So when he brought up Nixon's name, everybody in the audience laughed. So again, if you're not up on Richard Nixon, look him up, and you know, you can get the demo off of that. The next individual is Ford, and Ford wasn't in there that long, but he shortly went into Ford. Ford endorsed Indonesia, the Indonesian invasion of East Timor, and he was supplying them with weapons and intel and so forth and so on. Again, meddling. Now, the next president is Carter. Carter increased the flow of weapons to Indonesia, you know, to continue the invasion on Timor. Even though Congress stated that human rights violations were being committed, as well as different people all over the world, the UN and so forth and so on. I don't want to say the UN because I didn't look that up for sure, so don't quote me on that. But there were various countries. Basically, they were saying at that point that Indonesia was a pariah. They were saying that, you know, what they were doing in Timor was bogus and there were human rights violations being committed. So again, I digress on that UN statement. But there were other nations already stating that what was going on in Timor was bogus. And once Congress said what was going on was bogus, he went through his vice president and had his vice president go talk to Israel and basically funneled the weapons to Indonesia through Israel. So again, this is indictable under these rules that they set forth to say what is a war crime. Again, let me state, this is not an indictment on the United States system. This is not some type of tyrannical rant. These are factual bases that went on in this country. I'm getting people to understand that everything that goes on in this world is universal. So one man's president is another man's dictator. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So to the people of other countries, we are seen as the bad guys, quote unquote, because what I'm attempting to get everybody to understand is that once I get my people together, because that's what I'm here to do, before I get the world together, I have to get my people together. But this really boils down to humanity. That's why I'm bringing these things to issue. That's why I'm bringing these things to the forefront and quote unquote pulling up the skirt on the Statue of Liberty and showing its shame. So when you watch these various news programs and things of that nature, you don't watch it with a self-righteous state of mind. You can watch it with an actual worldview and a humanitarian view to understand that when people are doing whatever they're doing around the world and so forth and so on, if you're not educated on their cause and why they're doing what they're doing, don't judge those people. You understand what I'm saying? And again, this is not any type of vouch for any individual that I'm speaking about. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just giving the facts. And again, these are facts stated by Noam Chomsky. Now, I left off on, I believe it was Carter. Yes, it was Carter. Now, we're going to go to Reagan. He didn't really speak on Reagan too much. All he said was that he was the first president to be condemned by an international court of justice based on his involvement in Iran-Contra. Now, for all of you that don't know what Iran-Contra is, that is what, basically that's the backstory behind why you watch Snowfall. Iran-Contra was a situation to where you had rebels and so forth and so on, and Reagan was trying to fund a war. Congress wasn't having it. So basically what he did was fund the war through narcotic sales. That's how crack cocaine came to the inner cities of America, because the CIA and other government entities allowed it to come over here. And the proceeds from that were sent back and funneled to Nicaragua. You understand what I'm saying? And they were to fund the Contras, quote unquote, the Contras. You can look all these things up. It's a public record. You understand what I'm saying? That's where Maxine Waters really came into the limelight when she, they had a hearing about it or whatever, because she's out there in California. That's where Rick Ross comes from, the real Rick Ross, Highway Rick Ross, not this guy that raps and all of that. You know what I mean? I'm not even finna talk about him. I'm not here to dog him or anything. I'm talking about the real guy, the man of mans. You know what I'm talking about? And his supplier was a cat by the name of Blandone, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he was a CIA operative. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, the plug was a government operative, and he was giving him the work. This was the guy that brought the thing to the table. He was him. You know what I mean? Before it was BMF, before it was any of these other guys, man, he was the guy. You know what I'm saying? So this was government sanctioned, and this was done under Reagan's tenure by his accord. You understand what I'm saying? Look it up. It's out here. Now, the next individual is Bush 1, as they stated. And they have him on here, again, Noam Chomsky's words. He's on the list based on the invasion of Panama when they kidnapped a government agent by the name of Manuel Noriega. You understand what I'm saying? For the crimes that he committed while he was on the CIA's payroll. I'm sure, again, to go back to Rick Ross, he had the song, the rapper Rick Ross, I know Noriega, he owe me 100 favors, and all that riffraff. Hey, man, this is why I tell you cats, man, propaganda is very deep. You understand what I'm saying? This individual, Noriega, yes, he was a drug kingpin, and he was this, that, and the third, and woo, but he was propped up by the CIA. You understand what I'm saying? So, again, when these people just be throwing these names out here and just saying this and saying that, and you know what I mean? No, my friend, it's not a game. You know what I mean? These people were used to weaponize narcotics to destroy your community. It wasn't by happenstance. It wasn't because, oh, some boats got through and some shipments got through and this happened and that happened. No, it was basically chemical warfare. Instead of Saddam Hussein dropping mustard gas on the Kurds, they dropped crack cocaine on the black community. It's the same thing. Let's go to the next individual. Bill Clinton. He sent cruise missiles to Sudan to destroy a pharmaceutical factory. Now, there was no intel failure. You understand what I'm saying? And tens of thousands died. And in his last year of office, the Israeli settlements were at an all-time high and grew the largest since 1992. Now, Israeli settlements are a military occupation, and it's funded by your tax dollars. You understand what I'm saying? So you can look into the whole Israeli-Palestine conflict, you understand what I'm saying, and see what that's all about, and you can get an understanding about that, because that's a whole nother scenario and show that I would completely have to go into to disseminate that type of information. Now, when he got to Bush 2, all he said was, hey, the Iraq War, and he left it at that. Now, again, you can look it all up and see what led to that, and and misinformation, and how they misused intelligence, and there was no intelligence, and people just went and did whatever they wanted to do, blah, 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 blah. Now, when it comes to Noam Chomsky in this interview, that's where he stopped. You see what I'm saying? That's where he stopped. Now, as we go in our time, well, furthermore, after he stopped his interview, I'm going to talk about Obama. And these are just facts that I know myself. You see what I'm saying? And these are offenses. These are offenses. Call it what you want to call it. Anyway, now, his drone attacks overseas. You understand what I'm saying? His whole drone campaign, whatever. And again, this is not an indictment on why they do what they do and so forth. So I'm talking about the actual acts that have been committed and how they go around the world and say, because you did this or because you did that, this person or that person needs to be overthrown, or this person or that person needs to be taken out, and and we need to do it like this. If somebody was to do that over here, come on now, it's not going to happen. Now, back to him. There were 542 drone strikes during his tenure. And his first drone strike was January 23rd of 2009, 3 days into his presidency. It was 2 strikes, 3 hours apart in Waziristan, I hope I'm saying that correct, and in Pakistan. And it killed as many as 20 civilians. Now, also, his administration backed the rebels that overthrew Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. If you know anything about Libya and Muammar Gaddafi, like I say again, I'm not here to minimize anything he did, because they say he was responsible for the Lockerbie bombing and things of that nature. So you can look all these things up yourself. But again, like I say, what I do know is that he was attempting to give money to black revolutionaries here in America, i.e. the Black Panther Party. And when brothers and sisters had to go in exile and run from this country and get away from this country only because they were fighting for their liberation, Libya was a place that they could go. Again, I'm not minimizing anything that he may have done anywhere else. I'm telling you, I'm talking about straight business. So again, the Obama administration, they backed the rebels that overthrew Muammar Gaddafi. They literally killed him and had him, I'm talking about drug him down the middle of the street and sodomized him with a bayonet. There's video of it. It's very vicious. And again, like I say, this brother was attempting to funnel money to brothers and sisters over here in America to help fund free lunch programs and health clinics and various funds and various causes to help us, do what it is that we do. Now, you got Trump. Again, these are not Noam Chomsky's words. These are my words at this point when it comes to Obama and Trump. You got the whole January 6th demonstration, and then you have the whole kids in cages demo. If any other country did that, and what they would have brought them up on human rights violations and said, oh, it's inhumane, and and it'd have been sanctioned, Now, I'm saying all that to say this, because even in Noam Chomsky's evaluation of the presidents and what went on, at no time did he state the greatest crime of all presidents. And that is the treatment of the American slave and their descendants. And for that, all presidents are indictable. Now, I said all this because I was watching a documentary series called The Evolution of Evil. And within this documentary series, they had Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Idi Amin, Muammar Gaddafi. They also had Benito Mussolini. They had the whole Kim dynasty, that's North Korea, from the first leader of North Korea all the way down to Kim Jong-un, who's running the show right now. Pol Pot, he's on there. He ran Cambodia for like 4 or 5 years, and there was a mass, quote unquote, mass genocide and so forth and so on. You can look all these things up on your own. But at no point in this documentary series is there any American president or any American representation to say that there's an evolution of evil here. I've lived it. My people have lived it, the experience. You understand what I'm saying? They talk about how Benito Mussolini went over to I can't even think of the place. This is where anyway, I can't even think of it right now. I'm lost in my thought. I apologize for that. But Benito Mussolini, he went over to where basically where the Rastafarian belief comes from, where Selassie was at. You know what I mean? I want to say I don't want to say the wrong country, but Emperor Selassie. Ethiopia. That's where it was. That's where it was. I knew I would think of it. Anyway, Benito Mussolini went over to Ethiopia, and I'm talking about a mass genocide. You understand what I'm saying? Emperor Selassie came to the people and said, hey, he asked for help. This is the third man. People turned a blind eye. You understand what I'm saying? They turned a blind eye. Anyway, look it up. I apologize for the gaffe, as they call it, in my train of thought, but it was Ethiopia that Benito Mussolini went to and demonstrated like that. But again, like I say, I was watching this documentary series, and you have all these people on here, and there's no American representation. And again, this is not a slight on America or to radicalize anybody. I'm just here to tell you how propaganda works, because they're going to tell you about all the atrocities that all these other individuals committed, but they're not going to talk about what went down right here. And what I just ran down from Noam Chomsky, these were all international offenses. At no time did he talk about the treatment of American slaves and the descendants of them, bro. And for that, they should all be called dictators. Because to me and mine, it has been a dictatorship. It has not been a presidency. There has been taxation without representation. There has been degradation. There has been incarceration, you know what I'm talking about, after slavery, that actually turned into a whole nother form of slavery, because once cotton came off the table, now we're going to have these people in here in mass industry. And I know for myself down in Georgia, I'm talking about, man, they down there, the real chain gang, Jack. I'm talking about in the field, you know. But we're not going to get on to all that. That's a whole nother episode. Again, like I say, I just came to bring y'all that news and to open your eyes to something so that you can understand geopolitics and how the world works. Our hands aren't clean. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see these different individuals from different places and this, that, and the third, this is why they have this sentiment toward this country. Because the same way we see these other dictators, this is how they see our presidents. You get what I'm saying? So again, it's about humanity. We have to open our eyes to humanity. But before, like I say again, before I can do all that, I have to disseminate this information to me and mine and get us together. And once I get us together, then we can reach out and, you know, do all that other thing. Now, again, like I say, I appreciate y'all tuning in to the Fraction Report. You know what I'm saying? I'm bringing y'all the good news you can use. Like, subscribe, and share, but never compare. You know, and again, I'm going to be out here on the slab real soon. We working on these cars and these T-shirts and everything like that. I'm not here to break you for the cash apps, you know what I'm saying, or the PayPals, you know what I'm talking about. But again, like I say, man, I need y'all to like and subscribe and share so we can get off here in this algorithm and actually get some things motivating and demonstrating. Anybody that has any type of community activism going on, you're welcome to hit me up, you know what I'm saying. My real name is George Fraction, like I say on the beginning of the thing, on YouTube and also on Facebook, so forth and so on. Just hit me up. You can promote on here. I'm not going to charge you anything like that. I know we don't have a lot of subscribers and followers right now, but we on the ground right now. We building things up. And like I said, again, you're going to see me out here doing some community activism and really being out here on the slab. Until the next time, man, y'all be cool and keep your power tools. And like I say, your power tools meaning your hammer, you know what I'm talking about, and your leaf blower, because you might have to blow away some trash. Y'all be peaceful.